Hi, I'm Billie Kowalewski, and I'm the author of Our Lives Between, which is the first book in the Enlightened series, and is based on the belief that I have that Earth is a school. So I'm going to put this up here. So, since my last video, I have been asking the universe or my guide, what I should talk about next. And it's gone back and forth between two different topics. One is they want me to talk a little more about signs and clues. And the other topic is they want me to explain what the rules are of Earth. So, alright, so signs and clues. So, these can range. They're going to use everything in your day-to-day life. Actually, it's not just day-to-day, it's 24 hours. It'll be media sources. They're going to utilize that. They're going to utilize prompts from others. They're going to utilize earworms. If all of a sudden you have a song bouncing around your head that you just can't get rid of, not one you've heard 5 minutes ago, like on the radio, like I'm talking, sometimes. There's always an exception to every rule, which leads into that too. But so they're going to utilize everything you can possibly think of, even your dreams. Sometimes there will be information in those. If you get up in the morning and part of your routine is to read your horoscope at some point during your day, they'll utilize that too. If that's what you believe in and you follow that, or say you go to church that morning and the pastor or the priest is talking about whatever topic, you ever find it don't you find it interesting when they're suddenly talking about something you can relate to? Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. For example, they wanted me to bring up, so I'm going to tell you a little story. Back in the summer of 2023, I was very busy. I was employed by two companies. I was working at a public transit company, and I was also working for a school bus company. And at the same time, that particular summer, I was working on publishing this book. So throughout that summer, so I'm pretty seasoned when it comes to signs from the universe as to what they want me to do or what direction they want me to go. And throughout the entire summer, I was getting signs of what was to come or what they wanted me to do. I was due to take a proficiency with the school bus company. And for those of you that don't know what that is, every time you go to renew your license, if you're a school bus driver, in order to keep that S endorsement on your license, you have to take a proficiency in order to keep that and to be able to renew your license. So I was due for that. And at the same time, while I was debating on whether or not I wanted to continue with the school bus company, I was getting signs at my day job that it was time to go. And I was definitely fighting it because I had developed a pretty decent routine, at least I thought, when it came to the writing and even the publishing and stuff. And I was making decent money, and I was able to pay my bills and in a very timely fashion, and I was happy about that part. Was I happy working at the transit company? Not always. Every day was met with some sort of challenge. But you know what? That's work. That's life. And I was earning a living, and I was making everything work. So I was kind of fighting that. The kinds of signs I was getting, and maybe you can relate to something that happened in your own situation. I was finding that I was being... there was like this separation kind of starting there between me and the company. I was noticing that I was being excluded from things like classes and meetings and information. And during all of this, the whole company was going through this big change with this merger they were going through and stuff. And I could feel the separation starting. And I was saying to the universe, no, I can make this work. Nope, it's not time. I don't have anything prepared. And I was thinking about, paying my bills. And then I was thinking about paying for the expenses that come with being an independent author. All the marketing that I have to pay for, and going towards publishing the next book and things like that. And I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. What ended up happening is, and this is what they do, they put me into a situation there where they knew what my reaction to that situation would be. And I remember getting up out of my chair at the public transit company. I was really mad. And I stomped my way to the back of the building, went out the back door, and I just looked up angrily towards the sky going, are you serious? I have to deal with this? And they knew that it would prompt me to make the decision that they wanted me to make. So, did I make the right choice? Yes, I did. So, I had made the decision pretty much right there that it was time to go. I won't elaborate on what happened. Maybe eventually I'll talk about that, but, yeah, I'm mad. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go back to the school bus. The transition, all transitions, most of the time, are never easy. But fast forward 2 years now. It's almost 2 years. Am I happy I made that choice? Yes, definitely. Has it gotten better? Yes, definitely. In a lot of ways. There's still some bumps in the road, and that's life. That is a part of our journey. There's bumps in the road, and that's how it works. And it kind of, what will happen is you'll start taking steps forward, and then you'll get knocked back a little bit, and then you'll start taking more steps forward, and then it'll get knocked back a little bit. Kind of like the ocean, the way it ebbs and flows. And it always ends up working out better than you ever thought it could ever happen, than you ever could imagine. So, yes, so that's how that stuff works. So, like, when I say prompts from others, as far as the sign goes, yeah, you'll get people reacting to you, or making a decision to talk to you in a certain way, or start trouble, or whatever the case may be there. Like, there's so many different ways of explaining prompts from others. Sometimes you'll just be a conversation you overhear when you're at a restaurant. You'll hear those people talking, and you'll think to yourself, would I make that choice, or how would I do that? And then you'll find yourself in that situation. So it's those kinds of things that I will notice. And every day I'm going through my day, watching for the changes, and then the conversations that I have with people. And I'm wise to it, and I appreciate it, and I definitely follow it. And it works. It works for me. And it does not matter what your faith is. They will take that and they will utilize that too. So it's whatever you believe in, whatever you were taught. If that thing, that belief system works for you, that's what they're going to use. And there's nothing wrong with that. All I'm doing is giving you a little extra, some tools. This is a tool. This is to add to what you already do. And you might find that it works pretty well. So, now that we have that established, there are, when it comes to signs, so most of them are pushing you along your path towards what they want you to do, but also what you wanted to do when you had decided to come here. So that's what's happening there. You will, along the way, there's signs that will come up that tend to act kind of like mile markers. At least that's how I've perceived them. You'll be in the middle of a situation, or in my case, and I love this one. So back in 2017, I had just published Enlightened, and I was in this, I had published it originally in 2016, took over the rights, the distribution rights in 2017. I was in this writers group and I was I had put a post up looking for books that were similar to what I had written. Books about soulmates in the afterlife, or life in the afterlife, that sort of scenario. And a person had commented, and her name is Sandra J. Jackson, and she had recommended her book. And I have read this. I read it back then as an ebook, and it's amazing. It's about a girl or a woman who has been having dreams of a past life, who ends up going to England, and that's where she finds her soulmate. And like, I love this story. So, and at the time, I loved the story, and I wrote a review for it, and because that's what authors do. We kind of help each other a little bit when it comes to that stuff, because getting reviews is not easy. We don't do exchanges, though. No, those are frowned upon. But what we will do is kind of help each other, sharing videos and things like that, and sometimes reviews. And it's all about karma, like whatever you put out there, you do get back eventually. So I did not realize when I had originally read this story that it was a sign of something in my future. And a lot of times we won't see it. And another example of something that will nod to something in your future, say for example, you are working for a company and they send you to a city that you've never been to for the first time, right? And you're there for maybe an hour or two or whatever. And then fast forward a few years later, and now you're living there. Or you're there all the time. Or maybe like a job opened up and that's where you are now. So watch for those mile markers. Once you start like catching those, you'll start to look at your day and things that happen during your day a little differently. So yes, this book ended up being like a sign of what's to come in my life. So, I published my story, but right before that, I had reconnected with an old friend, and his name is Aaron. And he was going through some stuff, and I was helping him with that. Just being a friend. That's pretty much it. That's what we do when we care about people. And he ended up meeting this wonderful woman, and her name is Kristen. So the characters in this story are Aaron and Krista, which I found to be an interesting coincidence. But I didn't even think anything of this until a couple of months ago, when I was itching to read this story for whatever reason. And it was just in my head, and I just could not. And I started looking around my house thinking I thought I had purchased this book already as a print book. And so I'm looking around my house for my copy. I couldn't find it. So I went digging around on Amazon to see if I had purchased it. And the only purchase I had made of this story was an ebook. So I was like, oh, well, that's weird. So I ordered my copy, and then I forgot that I did it. And then I ended up ordering another one. So imagine my surprise when right after I ordered the second one, the first one showed up, and I was like, "Oh, okay then." So I like I don't know. I get really busy doing stuff, and then like I'll forget I did something, and then yeah. So that's how those things happen. But you know, when Aaron had met his now wife, I did not connect the dots yet. And then they had asked me if I would officiate their wedding. And I was so honored by that. I was like, of course, yes, I'll do it. And I did back in September. So then a few months goes by and I this started kind of nagging at me to reread the story. So, I order my copies and I get them. I sit down, I start reading the ebook. And I'm like, because I didn't want to ruin I didn't want to crease anything. I wanted this is for my collection, you know? Well, I start rereading this and I'm like, oh my God, holy crap. Like, how did I not remember this? That the characters have the similar name. I mean, that's a pretty big coincidence. And I don't believe in those. So I did make sure. So what I ended up doing was I contacted Sandra, and we've been in contact like ever since. We've been author online friends ever since that first post. And like I've read her other books, and if you have not checked out Sandra J. Jackson, I highly recommend you do, because she's a fantastic author. Not only has she written, Prom is Sold, but she also has written Playing in the Rain. I love that story. It's very, very good. It's not quite the love story that this book is. It's a little more dystopian and just brilliant. So it is nice to have friends like this that are like, to have friends that are so talented, and I get really good stories. But so I did send her the books, and I asked her to sign one for them and one for me, naturally, for my collection. I sent her a copy of Our Lives in Between because she kind of helped with that. She gave me advice that I needed to hear when it came to Enlightened, and I'm very grateful to her for that. So thank you, Sandra. So those are the kinds of things that I experience in my day-to-day life. And you probably are experiencing something like this too, or some things like this. And society, our world, belief systems, whatever, you just end up dismissing them. But I don't anymore. I have not dismissed any signs or clues in a really long time. I mean, sometimes the signs are a little on the subtle side, so I will miss some at first. But then I catch it, and I'm like, oh, I know what I need to do. And I try to go at it. Some things I try to resist, like leaving my full-time job. I did try. I did. And you know what? And I could have dug my heels in. I could have said, no, I'm not doing it. I could have. But you know what would have probably happened? Those things, that situation I was in, would have only probably have gotten worse. So, you know what? I take those chances, as life is short. So, yep, I highly recommend taking your chances and making those decisions. So, what are the rules of Earth? Let's talk about that now. So, there isn't a lot that I have noticed as far as the rules go. The first, there are rules. There's the barrier, and that is put in place at birth, and it keeps us from remembering who we are, where we come from, and why we're here. It acts like a coffee filter. It keeps the bulk on one side while only allowing what is important through. So what are the important things? Well, your conscience. That thing that tells you what you should do when you're in a certain situation, it's that information that will come through. It's not that we can't remember anything, because we can a little bit. Can I remember what my home is like in the other world? No. But I get a feeling about it, or a sense of what things are like. The other rules that I have witnessed or I've come to understand is our guides are not allowed to talk to us. They're not allowed to go, hey, Billie, knock it off. Or go over here, go over there, or choose this, choose that. No. When it comes to the Earth School, we make the choices. We make those decisions, whether we want to go this way or go that way. The universe will definitely step in and put you in the scenario that will cause you to make the choice that they want. Yep, they do that. But they're not going to tell you what to do. Because they want you to be the one that executes the thing, whatever decision. It's all about our learning, and we learn better by being hands-on, getting our hands dirty. So yes, so the guys are not allowed to talk to us. They're not allowed to interfere. Can they step in when we're in like a confrontation with somebody and it's getting heated? No. But you will have probably have had signs before that letting you know that there is a problem brewing. They can do that. So those are the only rules that I really know of. As far as the Earth School goes on a whole, there isn't any. There are no rules for us. And I know what you're thinking right now. But Billie, there are a lot of rules here. And you're not wrong. There are a lot of rules on Earth. But those rules were created by us. All those rules about, like, murdering people, or, robbery, or, all the street signs you see, and things like that. Those were all created by us. We made those up. So, the couple of things that I have caught as far as rules go on this planet, there's always an exception to every rule. We have laws here, obviously, but those were created by us. And obviously the rules our parents gave us. You can't stay out past 10 p.m. Did we always listen to those things? No. We would stay out till midnight or 4 a.m. or whatever. And then we got whatever consequence. So you are free to make whatever choice you want as long as it's right for you. And that is what Earth is about. So there's a lot of rules that we have here in society. And I think about this all the time. For example, a good one would be insurance, like medical insurance. We are taught on a regular basis that we have to have medical insurance. But do you really have to have medical insurance? No, there's tons of generations that didn't have medical insurance. Does it make things troublesome for getting medical care in 2025 in the United States? Yeah, it does. But do you have to have it? No. The seatbelt law. Okay. Do I have to wear my seatbelt? No. Will I get a ticket? Maybe. Probably. But see, that's the point. You don't have to do it just because someone says that you have to. Unless it's right for you. If it's right for you and you feel better about wearing a seatbelt, I definitely wear my seatbelt, then wear your seatbelt. You know, it's that sort of scenario. Um, People, I'm sure someone's going to comment on here about, like, but Billie, we have to do these things. No, you don't. If your spouse is telling you that you have to do this thing, or you have to, you can't be friends with this certain person, or whatever, and you choose to listen to that, then okay. But you don't have to listen to that. And a lot of times we don't. We are going to make choices all the time, every single day. And the whole point of this place is to learn from the good and the bad and the ugly. So, yes. So when you take a step back and you look at Earth from an outsider perspective, you'll start to see it. Earth doesn't have rules. The guides have rules, you know, and the universe has rules as to how they communicate with us. But that's it. We have none. No rules. Not really. It's all perspective, I guess, or perception. Perception's probably a better word for that. So yes. So if you have questions about what I just talked about, like, hopefully I was clear in, you know, some of the signs, look for them. It'll be things like earworms. It'll be things like, you know, what comes on the radio or what comes on TV sometimes, or maybe it'll be a conversation you have with somebody, or maybe you'll have a group of people decide to throw you under the bus for something that you did not do. Or they'll take that situation and turn it because they're trying to take the light off themselves. Those things happen. They always happen for a reason, to push you down your path in the direction you need to go. So another question you're probably wondering, well, what about the wrong turns? I made this decision a long time ago and I regret it. Well, I'm going to tell you that even that decision was the correct one. Did it result in something that was unpleasant, maybe? And maybe you could have made a different decision. And in your next life, you will come across a similar situation and you will make the right choice there, or the different choice. But I will never tell you that it was the wrong turn, because it puts you on the path that you were meant to go. So no, like, you didn't make the wrong decision. You made the right decision in that moment, a decision. Because we're here to learn about things. That's it. It's a complicated little school here. But it's kind of easy. It's fun, it's adventurous, and that's who we all are. We're adventurous people. That's why we signed up for this place. We're all adrenaline junkies, if you think about it. Every day is an adventure, and I love it. I hope you do too. If you have any other questions about the Earth School, about our lives in between, the Alliance series, anything, you can throw it in the comments, or you can email me. I'd be happy to answer your questions. Have a great day. See you next time. So I do need to add a little more to this video, because after I recorded this and while talking to my daughter, she reminded me that there is one possible rule for us that I have noticed. And that would be that we must participate. Now, I'm not 100% sold yet that that is an actual rule, because there's an exception to the rules all the time. And I'm still observing the lives on Earth, you know, as many as possible. But because of my years in public transit, I was able to observe a lot of lives in progress. And I learned that you are either participating in life or it is happening to you. Now, sometimes life is just happening to you anyway, and you're going through a rough patch, and it's at no fault of your own. Those things do occur, but I'm talking about the ones that are just not participating, hiding in their house, not interacting with anyone. Maybe they're letting their spouses do everything and they're just hiding or whatever. Eventually, that stuff's going to run out and it'll catch up with them, and you'll end up learning something in a not so pleasant way. So, my advice: live as much as you can, participate as much as you can. And you're stuck doing hard work no matter what. You're either doing it now or you're doing it later. Either way, you're doing something like that in this world. That's just how it is. Um, you know, I often compare signing up for the Earth School to signing up for the military, because once you sign up, you're stuck. And once you go, there's no easy way out until your time is up. Thanks for watching.